We spend so much of our lives trying to avoid failure, fearing it, doing pretty much everything we can just to succeed. But what if that's all wrong? What if the real key to a successful life isn't about avoiding failure at all, but about embracing it? Let's get into it. I know, it's a pretty wild idea, right? But today, we're going to look at how some of the world's most incredible people didn't just get past failure, they actually used it. They harnessed it like fuel for their biggest breakthroughs. So we're going to pull together some serious wisdom from four amazing people: a highly decorated Navy SEAL admiral, a world-renowned author, a tech visionary who literally changed the world, and a groundbreaking educator. Their stories couldn't be more different, but the lesson they teach, it's exactly the same. Failure is one powerful and totally necessary teacher. All right, first up, let's talk about a weird paradox. We live in a world that is completely obsessed with success, right? The perfect highlight reel. But we are terrified of the messy, difficult, and frankly, ugly process it takes to get there. And what's so interesting about this quote is who J.K. Rowling is talking to: a room full of Harvard graduates. I mean, these are the best of the best. It just goes to show you that even at the absolute peak of achievement, the thing pushing you forward might actually be fear. And that's a fear that can stop us from taking the big swings, the real risks that lead to something new. So really, it boils down to two ways of looking at failure. Most of us, we're taught the conventional view. It's the end of the road, a big red stamp that says you're not good enough. But innovators, the people who really shake things up, they see it totally differently. For them, failure is just data. It's part of the journey, not the destination. And sometimes that journey can take you to some pretty dark places. So let's look at how hitting rock bottom can actually be a gift in disguise. This was J.K. Rowling, just 7 years after she graduated. Her marriage had completely fallen apart. She was jobless, a single mom, and in her own words, as poor as it is possible to be in modern Britain without being homeless. Think about that. Every single fear her parents had for her, it had come true. And believe it or not, this was Steve Jobs' reality when he was 30. He had just been fired, and super publicly, from Apple, the company he had poured his entire life into. He felt like he'd let down a whole generation of innovators. It was absolutely devastating. But here's where the story pivots. For both Rowling and Jobs, this moment of absolute public humiliation, well, it wasn't the end. Not even close. In fact, you could say it was the beginning of the most important chapter of their lives. You see, losing everything gave Rowling something she never expected: freedom. Her biggest fear had happened, and guess what? She was still standing. It let her stop pretending to be something she wasn't and pour every ounce of her energy into the one thing that truly mattered to her: writing. And Jobs felt that exact same thing. That crushing pressure of being Steve Jobs, the successful guy, was suddenly gone. And what replaced it was this incredible lightness, this freedom of being a beginner again. And that freedom, it launched him into one of the most creative periods of his entire life, where he founded both Next and Pixar. Now, this kind of transformation isn't just about changing your mindset. It's about building real, tangible strength. So let's dig into the specific lessons you can only learn when you're in the struggle. Admiral William McRaven tells this amazing story about a Navy SEAL training drill. He says it didn't matter how perfect your uniform was, the instructors would always find some tiny flaw. And the punishment? You had to run into the freezing ocean, then roll around on the beach until you were covered head to toe in sand. You became a sugar cookie. The whole point wasn't to succeed. It was to teach you that sometimes you're going to fail no matter how hard you try. The lesson is simple. Life's not fair. Accept it and keep moving. And along the same lines, if you failed to meet any daily standard in SEAL training, you got invited to something called the circus. 2 extra hours of just brutal, punishing exercise. But McRaven noticed something really interesting. The trainees who were on the circus list the most often, the ones who went through the most pain, they were the ones who ended up becoming the strongest. The pain of their failure was literally building them up. And this isn't just some tough guy military philosophy. It's actually backed by science. Researcher Angela Duckworth calls it grit, and her point is so important. This kind of resilience isn't something you're born with. It can be learned. But, and this is a big but, it only happens when we truly understand that practice and failure go hand in hand. You just can't have one without the other. Okay, so we get it. Failure is important. But how do we actually do this in our own lives?
How do you build that muscle, that resilience, to not just fail, but to fail forward? Well, Admiral McRaven gives us a pretty powerful toolkit. Number 1, start your day by making your bed. It's a small win, but it builds momentum. 2, realize you can't do it alone. Find your people, your team. 3, when the big challenges, the sharks, show up, you stand your ground. And maybe the most important one, when everything in you wants to give up, don't. Never, ever ring that bell.
To all this, Steve Jobs adds a crucial layer of faith. Getting fired from Apple, dropping out of college. At the time, none of it made any sense. It felt like a disaster. But looking back, he could see how every single failure, every unexpected detour, was a dot that was absolutely necessary to connect to his future success. You just have to trust the process.
So, the final lesson, the thing that ties all of this together, is this. Failure isn't a chapter you should try to rip out of your life story. It's often the most important part.
And so we'll leave it with the powerful words from these amazing thinkers. From Steve Jobs, it's a plea to never lose that beginner's mind, that curiosity, that willingness to take a chance and not have all the answers.
From J.K. Rowling, it's a beautiful reminder that the ability to imagine a better world, to feel what others feel, that's the real magic. And it's a power that's often forged in our toughest times.
And finally, from Admiral McRaven, a direct challenge to every one of us. The small things you do, the resilience you build when you fail, that decision to just keep going, that is what changes the world.
Right now, as you're listening to this, in all your wins and all your setbacks, your story is being written. Every single struggle, every sugar cookie moment, it's all part of the narrative. So the last question isn't if you're going to fail, because let's be honest, you will. We all will. The only question that really matters is, what are you going to build from it? What will that solid foundation be for the great story of your life?